All right, you're welcome back to the show. It's still Good Morning, Anambra on EBS TV. This morning, we have a book presentation that is reflections on the origin, ancestry, and identity of Igbo. This is what we'll be looking at this morning, and we have with us a guest and author of books, reflections on the origin of Igbo, exploring new perspective in tracing the Black Jews of Africa. That's the first book. And the other one is Replacing Faulty Ideologies, redefinition of the concept of Omenani using biblical and theological ideologies. The author of this book is right here with us in the studio, and he is Reverend Canon Charles Ekwoso, PhD. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We also have Sir Major Dennis Ekemezie. He is a member organizing committee. Good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to have you.
This Major and the Major.
Major. Well, I like the sound of it. That's why I can't take it off my mind.
Thank you.
You're welcome to the show this morning.
Thank you very much.
Okay, over to you, Canon. Once again, welcome. So you're a priest in Anglican church.
That's true.
Which of the dioceses?
Yeah, I'm of the diocese of Panshin Diocese.
Oh.
Panshin Diocese is a diocese that was carved out from the old Oka Diocese.
Okay.
I'm Jos Diocese.
Jos, okay.
Yeah, Jos Diocese. And Jos Diocese has been the headquarters for the province of the North. And this is where we are for so many years doing the work of mission.
Quite interesting. Okay, welcome back to Oka. Okay, let's talk about the books. I mean, this is the first time you're writing,
yes.
And you came out with 2 books, not even one, 2 at the same time. Now, let's look at, I mean, when I look at the titles of the book, Reflection on the Origin of Igbo, and then talking about Replacing Faulty Ideology, what actually inspired you to write these books?
First of all, identity is an issue that one should be pursuing with every kind of tenacity. Identity, when identity is taken away from a person, it seems that you have lost his being. And, we human beings being created in the image of God draws our identity from him. And we are expected by the way God lives, or the way we think God is, as he has revealed such to us. That's the identity we should bear. And the identity issue, being an Igbo man as a little boy, so many years back, my parents stayed in the North. We were cut off with the crisis in the 60s. And we moved down to the East. I lost my father then. And I grew up and I started living with these people, the Igbo people. And after a while, I traveled out for my education. I did computer science. You can see that was from moving from science to theology. One would be asking,
wow.
What did you, by 1983, I have already earned my degree in computer science.
Okay.
But what is this theology all about? Why did I go into that? When I came into Nigeria, I was doing well into a business I set up. And I remember that God was calling me. And who do I think I am? This kind of attitude of people against the Igbo man. And I'm asking, what has an Igbo man done that he's been hated and is not loved? Even those who have lived with him for so many years don't even have trust for him. So while I'm doing my theological education, the first one was on Christo-paganism among the Igbo people. That's where I wrote my thesis. And the second one was the Igbo spirituality. I think thing is going on in my mind. And then my main thesis, which is my PhD thesis, is on land. And that is where I found that God has called me. Land as the foundation for law and order in the Igbo society, in traditional Igbo society. These are the things that kept driving me. So this drive has been over for probably 15 years or 20 years. If you take 20 years out of my life today, it's a substantial number of years. And I kept asking, how do I get the understanding of who an Igbo man is? Why this Igbo man is versatile in everything he does? Why this man excels when it comes to doing work? Why is this an Igbo man surviving a very difficult situation in the 70s when we survived the Civil War? You don't have anything to eat on, but some years later on, you could see a difference. How did they make it? Is it not just hard work? No. This could be traced to the origins of who you are. God has never abandoned the people of the Igbo nation. So this is the drive. So, and then my research on this work.
Okay, you really did a good job there, putting all your thoughts together and the drive and everything, and then the research, and you came out with these wonderful books. Now, over to you. The member organizing committee for the book launch. Now, I know you must have gone through the books and you've seen what was written inside the book. What part or what are those places that fascinate you the more when you read the books?
Well, the books are purely research work and very in-depth in analytically, in modern terms, packaged and delivered. As the author said earlier, is trying to locate the first one, origin of Igbo, trying to locate who are we as Igbo, and what constitutes our personalities as Onyibo and Igbo, and also what are the components of the corporate personality of the Igbo nation. I think these are the drives that if you put them, you'll be able to assess the origin of Igbo. And of course, we know in the history of origin, every ethnic group migrated from one place to another. If you trace it, history of migration, history of origin, you will see either that these people came from here, these people came from here. For Igbo, the book tries to locate Igbo and associate them from the tribe of Israel. And it makes a big sense if you try to look at the constituents of an Igbo man and what he delivers over time, just as he argued, surviving through the difficult time and then excelling in a difficult situation. And that's why if you Chidema, migrates from Nigeria now to US, you become a different person. And that is survival strategy attitude an Igbo man acquired from the ancestral home of Israel. Then if you come to the other book, ideology, replacing faulty ideologies. And what are these faulty ideologies? You cannot understand this book very well if you are not having in-depth knowledge on colonialism and imperialism, because it deals adequately with what made that change in our cultural hemisphere. How did we change, and then how did we come about with these negative ideologies that impeded our omenani? And the book, my interest is where it anchored that we ought to go back to our omenanalism so that we'll be able to back up ourselves in terms of that reflection on ideology, and then our origin. Two of them combined together gives you an Igbo man in the past, as Chinua Achebe has written. So it's part of a continuation of Chinua Achebe's ideology on Igbo nation. And Afibo Adiele, I think that's much about it. Adiele Afibo and Onwejowu. Putting them together, these are historical perspectives that we're able to put who are the Igbos and where we are going. So all of them, the book is so interesting that Chidema, if you touch any of them, you won't sleep.
Quite interesting. Okay, over to you, Canon. Apart from the use of legendary or oral historical account of Ndibo, what other methods did you use in the book in tracing the origin of
most
Ndibo?
authors that have written about the Igbo people, you can see when I was defining the title, I used the origins, which takes this work away from what I call the conventional way of people writing, the legendary, the oral. But then I have to look beyond. And that's why which informed me to adopt a multidisciplinary approach. Using multidisciplinary approach design makes me to look into what theology is saying and what social sciences are also saying. These are methods I use, and if I can combine these two methodological approaches, it warrants me to go into looking into a qualitative approach and also descriptive approach, and this will take me to the rudiment that can give me a more understanding, having what I would call it, hermeneutical concept root of an idea that comes out from a people which they must have lived over years. And that's why I engage ethnographical approach, which is one of them. I use archaeological approach, which was one of the approaches I used. I use geographical feature-based approach, which I explain. When I say geographical feature-based approach, one, if you're not a geographer, you get lost. But if you're a geographer and you understand the terrain, what composed the terrain of east of Jordan, particularly the tribe of Gad, where the Gadites had their inheritance. And that is where I drew the identity of an Igbo man from the family of Gad. And then if you look at Gad, Gad settled in Gilead, and Gilead is in Bashan, which is in between the half tribe of Manasseh up and also the tribe of Reuben downwards. So Gad received this place which is luxurious and evergreen portion. And because they are nomads, so they first went for this because of their livestock. So when you look at this area particularly, and then you come down to the where we started tracing the Igbo man who settled. You look at the Ezu and Anambra conflicts, which is in the Anambra, I think Anambra East. Yes. So if you look at the Ezu and Anambra complex and you look at the terrain, it's very rich, and that's why we have this oil deposit. And it's the same thing you can also get if you examine the terrain of Gilead, which is also on the east of Jordan. This is the geographical aspect of it. And then there are other characteristics that are associated with this true zone, that whoever had lived or whoever had history would also see that these two places has reminiscent of pictures that will remind the people of how to go. I use historical, I use literary approach, I use comparative analysis, and I use linguistic and narrative approaches in order to analyze the thought of a Jewish man and also the thought of an Igbo man, and see if actually there is similarity. And if there is similarity, could they have had a common origin where meaning and construction begins. So if you don't have where meaning and construction of an idea begins, you cannot trace a people. But you can use that. If I would digress a little bit, if you look at the Limba people in Zimbabwe, where also we have a good sizable Jewish people living there. You see, the Bruder, who is also a French author, used what we call genetic traits and cultural traits, and then religious practices, going down to the issue of circumcision to trace the Limba people, and which, if you come to the Igbo man, when you look into my book, you will see more detailed analysis of these things that they use to mark out the Limba people as one of the Jewish disappeared people who found their way in Zimbabwe.
All right, quite interesting. It seems like I'm engrossed watching and listening to you this morning. All right, back to you, Sir Dennis. Now, this book, the reading and understanding of the books, the origin and tracing the Igbo origin, and also fixing or rather replacing the faulty ideologies. Now, just like you mentioned earlier, our Omenana, it's going into extinction. A whole lot of people now see it as something that is either evil or shouldn't even be practiced. It's being thrown away and all that. So if we read, understand what is written in this book, how can it help to revive our Omenana, our culture, and everything that has to do with Igbo and their origin?
Yes, thank you. I think the bottom line is that it's already established that there's a problem. And as he said, crisis, and how do we manage the crisis? And then it brings us back to reconstruction of history, reconstruction of impressions and perspectives and perceptions. And that leads us to the area of replacement. If something is not lost, why would you replace? And then as you reflect, you'll be able to take notes of what comes in and what needed to be done. And that is why revolving within our culture, when the canon was talking, it reminds me of the voyage that took place from Europe to Africa, where they termed it that they discovered the Niger. The Niger was already there before their ancestors. So why would they discover it? For whom did they discover it? Becomes the question. So we have been existing, and they came in with their, I remember I said earlier, the problem we are having is a problem of cultural imperialism as a result of colonialism. And then the dominant culture that came in with Christianity. What Christianity is trying to do now is to replace throughout our old cultures that are not in tandem with modern living, or what do I call it, better egalitarian society that will help to develop our side. So in that area, under that angle, you will now be able to situate what are these wrong doings or wrong attitudes or wrong behaviors. Of course, you know, you are with the elementary history, the clean or twins, and this is Maria Celezo and others. And then from there comes the modern culture. Of course, if you know that culture is dynamic and it changes over time. And it is that under that context that the replacement comes with nurture. Which one is good, which one is not good, which one is bad, and which one is good. Of course, we know in terms issue of morality, what may be good for you may not even be good for me. So in that changing of Omenane, our tradition, our customs, there are some of them that are not in tandem with modern, whether you call it theology or ethnographical connotations.
Just give us an example of one.
Well, you know that the Osu system now.
We are coming to that.
You know that the Osu system is already thrown out. Is part of the agitation. Clean out is out of our place. Then widowhood and inheritance, is now going metamorphosical pressure to extinguish some part that will not be relevant. And then the attitude of an Igbo man who owes to Obi. Okay, let me go back to land. What is the constitute? What is the? Why is our land defecated by our own brothers that are in different religious practice, which we call paganism, and then Christianity? So I think there's now this equilibrium between the two forces, the forces of paganism, traditional religion, and then the forces of Christianity, which are now struggling. Which one replaces the attitude of the people and then the behavior of the people? Then this is where the political economy approach will now try to intervene, because the young ones now will tell you, no big. So if the culture a tradition gives them better opportunity to acquire wealth, then they follow it. If Christianity gives them better opportunity, their ministries to get empowerment of wealth, they follow it. So there is a confusion. That is crisis. It's trying to tell us there's now crisis, and then how do we come up with the crisis? It's part of what he's advocating. So back to him to advocate.
Okay, cannot go ahead. Now, how do we wage this war?
Let me digress a little bit. Okay. When you look at the concept of umenani, what is umenani? Umenani is you have two active verbs, ome, nani, combined together to give you a compound word. Ome is an attitudinal issue. Kisieme. Dikanasieme. Because of the Igbo understanding of land, if you read my thesis, you'll be able to see where I use replacement theology to correct. But let me just come from what Dr. Kemezi said. Ome, let us take the white man came with Christianity, but also has a baggage of Western philosophy attached to it. And then meeting a people practicing something that is not in conformity with their own practice, such things are considered a taboo in the eyes of a missionary. That is because of limited knowledge and the concept behind what he made the people doing. Land, I'm going to take it now theologically. Land, to an Igbo man, is a place where divinity comes to meet with the mortal. Land is a place where divinity comes to meet with the mortal. This concept of land being a place where divinity comes to meet with the mortal is the same as what it is obtainable in the Jewish tradition and religion. And now we'll take you back to Bible. I will take two answers because I'm coming back to this. When God created man in Genesis chapter number 2, verse 7, remember he has spoken man into existence in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. Yes. But in Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, he said, God said, let us make man in our own image. And in the image of God, he made them male and female. Full stop. And God breathed his breath into them and became a living being. So, supposed to be acting or producing the same attitude of the one that created him. And that's why when you look at our Lord's Prayer, he said, Kaimeu chegenowa di kaisiemie na enigwe. Meu chegi. Let us do the will of God. So we are not doing the will of God, we are doing the will of man, the man understanding of land on which he is living, forgetting that God pronounced land into existence. So all your attitude affects the land that you are living in. So if your attitude is right with the land has no option but to do what? To produce. So any attitude of man that is opposite of that of God affects the land on which he's living. So that's when an Igbo man who I said, where has he divorced himself from? Because of pagan attitude, the acquiring of the worship of Baal in the east of Jordan, they copied what God said you should not copy. And God said that if you copy those practices, bringing an idol into the land and worshiping a God that you don't know, I'm going to spew you out of the land. And God did that. So that is what some of us are copying. But that traditional Igbo man that says that believe that whatever he does must not affect the land. Whatever he does, he will not kill. He will not sleep with somebody. Morally, he is morally sound. He doesn't take, he does not lie. And that's when you look at the 10 Commandments, you find the typical Igbo man straight into those things. But land became the focus instead of God being the focus. God pronounced and programmed the land to act according to my attitude and your attitude. The land will not rise against anyone whose attitude is right. The land will not. So what we are looking at Umenani, what are you bringing on the land? So people think that if you bring idol, today people are going to idolatry, bringing shrines. No, God forbids that in the sense that you do not know who owns the land. Because if you ask them, you say, this is what we have been practicing. You are practicing something that you don't even know how that thing came into existence. So the Bible provides the basis of defining how land came into existence. God's pronounced land into existence. When you look at Genesis chapter 1, verse 9 to 11, it will tell you that God said land come up, and land came up with all these things it has in it. So what is really Omenani? Doing it according to. But what we are doing is how our mind conceived land. How the mind conceived land. But you cannot understand land until you meet the owner of land. And that's God. And that's why God says in Leviticus chapter 25, verse 23, he said, the land is mine. And we are tenants. And assuming that you are a landlord, which I believe you are one of them, you tell your tenants on how they will live in your house. The very moment your tenants are not doing what they're supposed to do, you give them what? Quick notice. And that's what God is doing to any man or any woman whose understanding of land is contrary to that which God has programmed. So Umenani is beautiful. If the white man had seen the concept of Umenani and now bring biblical and theological principles and redefine it, our place is paradise. Look at what Dr. Kemeze is saying. You should not kill. Look at today's killing. Look at the enormity of killing in the land. If you go again to read the Bible, Numbers chapter 25, verse 24 says, you should not murder, that whoever murders should account for that murder, that the murder pollutes the land, and the land is where God is also living. You see, because I live in the land. If you read that text, it will explain this. So what do you do? Any attitude that you are bringing into land, and it is contrary to the attitude of God, offends the land. Today, I grew up in the East, and I stayed with the older people. If you trace the history of that Ubu, you would have found that things that were done in the past were so bad that the land has become became offensive to whoever comes onto it. That's That's what an Igbo man is doing. So if he had had this revelatory knowledge of God, an Igbo paradise is where beauty comes, is where hope rises, is where understanding of God will bring the beauty and the defense that you need. You don't need to work for this. These are natural things.
Okay. The concept of it, well, the one you just raised now, the one you just raised now. Now, if the land, so to say, the land we are talking about, if the land has been, let me use the word, has been defaced, defiled. Now, is the Igbo the normal thing to do to, appease God and also make the land imago or joy, just like we are saying? So, what the Igbo concept? I want us to understand it very well.
Let me come up before you take. Igbo means dragging.
Yes.
That is actually the meaning, to drag something out. But what are you dragging out? And who takes the item of sacrifice? Because Igbo means a genufu nuku deity. We believe Mbasa. Because now, that's we always miss. The first missionary came to Igbo land. He found Igbo early in the morning. Ochinyaka si ahize chuku. You will see that in the book of Metu. Metu actually brought that idea properly. Ochinyaka nenu, onye ka ochinyela aka nenu. O chuku, okporo alusi. Onye nwoke na-aga oji in the old and in today. Onye told you si chukwu okike. Omunuru onye policy abuja deka abuja bai nya wulu the credit to take the credit of creation. No. So because we did not understand God we worship, we call him but we did not understand him. And that is why we now started doing things according to the way we think, not the way. Bible we say Bible and but who created the land on which you are claiming you draw the understanding of humanity? So if Igbo is to stop doing that which is not good. Stop doing that which is not good and go back to God to say, I am sorry. But because we live in I call it mixed worldview, the worldview of the Christian concept, the worldview of Judeo-Christian concept, the worldview of Igbo Judah-Christian concept, the worldview of a typical traditional man, and then a pagan man too. Because if you look today, they think that if you go to those small things, you get understanding. But that is not what we are talking about. So when you stop that which is wrong, I said it's an attitudinal issue. The moment our attitude is in line with the attitude of God, your land has no choice but to produce. But the moment my attitude, your attitude is against the attitude of the Creator, the land will be violent. Things that are not good will start happening in your locality. The way we are doing things today, we have lived in this part of the world since after the war. The killings today is so huge that nobody. What attitude did these children copy? Because open in 10 Commandments, in Genesis chapter, Exodus chapter 20. Osi gebu na madu. Inaguzia madu. Osi gakwa n'iko. Abali n'egene n'olungaya. Osi gezu na gebu na madu. Buchiono, Matano Igbo. In when he wants to swear, he will remove his slippers. And you find that one in the book of Ruth, when Asayabia Kogolia, the same thing we are practicing. So that the land will bear witness to what he is about to do.
Oh, I think our problem is ignorance and lack of understanding. I mean, if we are on the know of all those things,
yes,
so many things wouldn't have gone wrong. But we'll continue with that discussion right here in the studio. Let's just go for a short break. When we get back, we'll just round up the show.
Great news for Anambra Broadcasting Service ABS audience. You can now watch ABS television through any of these ways.
Buy a terrestrial antenna and connect to your television. Search ABS Channel 24 Oka or ABS Channel 27 Onitsha. Install StarTimes cable decoder and search ABS Channel 113. Install Metro Digital cable decoder and search ABS Channel 29.
Watch ABS TV on your smart TV or smartphone by downloading Anambra Broadcasting Service app on Google Play Store. Also watch via ABS Facebook page at ABS Radio Television and ABS YouTube page at ABS Television Oka.
ABS TV is now also on satellite. You can watch us from anywhere in Nigeria and other African countries. Simply install ViewSat TV decoder or any other free-to-air decoder and tune into channel 0031.
Whichever option you choose, stay abreast of breaking news, documentaries, children's shows, talk shows, comedy, sports, movies, and lots more on your darling TV station.
For adverts and program sponsorship, contact 0803-388-8526 or 0806-883-9902. ABS, Heartbeat of the East.
Ndị Anambra, unu apụtagola?
Health and lifestyle, security, topical issues,
national development,
entertainment, and more.
Welcome to the flagship show where we arm you with the right tools for the day,
keeping you abreast with happenings and information within and beyond the state.
There are so many things to gain staying tuned to Good Morning Anambra on ABS TV.
Heartbeats of the East.
Good Morning Anambra, live on ABS Television, weekdays 7 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Right, you're welcome back to the show. It's still Good Morning Anambra, and we are still looking at book presentation reflections of the origin, ancestry, and identity of Igbo. I've learned a whole lot this morning concerning our origin, our ancestry, and the land. That's quite important. Let's talk about the event, because it's about book launch, book presentation that is happening. So tell us more about the event as the chairman, organizing committee, and when it's happening, and people that we're expecting to grace the occasion.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm just standing in for the chairman of the occasion, who is the traditional ruler of Umuawolo, His Royal Majesty Igwe Dr. Joel Egwongu. So he would have loved to be here, but other state exigencies could not allow him to come in as and then do this program. The program is packaged. We're almost 92% ready to carry out the function. And the place is at Emmaus House by Ato Avenue here in Oka on Saturday, the 4th of February 2023. And we're expecting our guests from 11 o'clock. As the chairman of the occasion is our youngest professor, our own dear son, who is in aviation industry, High Chief Professor Obiora Okonkwo, the Wokeje Jemba Igbo, who has flew the banner of Igbo all over the world. And then the royal fathers of the day, of course, we must not miss the chairman, Anambra Traditional Rulers Council, His Majesty Igwe Obi, Igwe Nameka Achebe, the Obi of Onitsha, is leading the traditional rulers. Of course, our own amiable Governor of Anambra State, His Excellency, is a special guest of honor because he has so much interest in our culture. That's why he has a Minister of Culture and Tourism. And we're expecting so many people to be there. It's a book presentation, and we have people who are going to review the book. Professor Onguneli, who is also a foremost communication expert and traditional ruler of Igbo, is there to give honor to review the book. And then the chief launcher is Mr. Maxwell Mba Malo, Ibiza. Younger ones will know him better, who provides entertainment, part of entertainment industry in all over Nigeria. So he's also be there to be the chief launcher or the presenter of the book. And so many people that are lined up in that occasion. We have, it's part of that culture and tradition. So the Deputy National President of Ohaneze Igbo, Demian Okeke Ogene, will be there representing Ohaneze Igbo. So we use the cell model approach to be able to package the invitations that will bring those, our invitees and guests to the occasion.
I think we have a caller. Maybe he wants to know more about the event. Hello, good morning. Good morning. All right, quickly, just let's go ahead.
So the spiritual fathers of the day, of course, we know the various religious sects are recognized. The Anglican Communion is to be represented by His Grace, Archbishop Ibezim, while the Ezokafo, Most Reverend Paulinus Emeka Ezokafo, will be of the Catholic community. There are other many guests being expected and VIPs being invited. The card is so much enormous that we spread it to all parts of Anambra State, as I said earlier, to all various sales groups, both the politicians or political active people, and then public servants, civil servants, which we are part of it, and then traditional institutions and heads of communities or town unions. Many people and others are expected to be there. The young ones, the youths, are also invited through Ohaneze Igbo, the Sion, the, what do you call it, other interest groups, the market women, and the National Council of Women's Society. They are recognized, giving invitations on their corporate individual existence to come and witness this very important, unique presentation. It is unique because it's dealing directly with an Igbo man. Now that Igbo man is in quest, what are we? Who are we? Where are we going? How do we drive Nigeria to a better country, to a better place, to a better environment? And this is the time. And the book, we chose this time because this is time Nigerians need to decide where to go. And Sonny Okosa will always ask us, which way Nigeria? This is time. If you come to the book presentation, you'll be able now to see people analyzing your environment, trying to bring you back to better conclusion on whom you are and what you will be. So this is a moment of decision. All right, finally, before we go, Canon, what are the attitude and concept that your book suggests as a way forward for Igbo after the Civil War? Just as we are rounding up.
Yeah, to be very brief, you can see, I say there is a gap that exists between the old, brigade and the new brigade. And the gap could be tied to what I call loss of identity, personality, who you are. When you don't understand who you are, you will never act as you think you are. And thirdly, the Igbo man is governed by principles, and the core value of an Igbo man is justice. The core value of an Igbo man is justice, and that is what we are not seeing. The core value of an Igbo man is to do what is right. What is right? Say it. That is the gathering. The core value of an Igbo man is purity. Purity has disappeared. And then we have entered into one chance, which I call Ocha Bute, Ocha Rese Bute, forgotten the Akuluno concept that the world speaks of its source when it gets home. When our attitude changes, our attitude changes on this direction, this land, the Igbo land, will be a paradise. This Igbo land will be, and this cannot be effectively implemented until our curriculum is changed. Where do you build those cultures that stand the Igbo man out? If you actually remember, if you read, there was a nation by there was a country by Chinua Achebe, his last book. He was talking about what the late Amadou Bello mentioned. I mentioned it in my book, that the Igbo man, if you give him space, after a while, he will become the henchman. No, he didn't get the Igbo man right. Igbo man has always worked very hard and determinedly to survive. So he has that determinant instinct driving him. And driving him is to do what is right. Doing what is right and believing in the power of justice has always brought him into clash with many people.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for the analysis. Of course, we cannot finish what is written in this book, but this is just a tip of the iceberg. All you need to do is to be there on the day of presentation and do yourself a favor by getting the copies of the books. I want to say a very big thank you to you, Reverend Canon Charles Epozo, for joining us this morning on the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
And also, Sir Dennis Akimbise, thank you so much for being here with us this morning.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here, and we must also recognize our drive, High Chief Ekwozo, Idu Maulo, that is helping us to package these things. And of course, the MD of ABS, who has given us Chido, this very good platform to speak on this very important topic.
And the Commissioner Nwosu.
And Honorable Commissioner Nwosu. Yeah, I do forget him.
All right, yes. I want to say a very big thank you to all the people that have been mentioned here this morning. My name is Chidema Orangwa. See you again tomorrow. Bye.
And also Chidema.
$126,000 people hospitalized nationwide.
4 people were killed in a crash last night, breathing their last.